Hello every pony, the one and only Dark Shadow here again with yet another glorious fanfiction reading. Have a new story for you guys today, one that I thought was kinda cute, kinda short, and very enjoyable, so I decided to read it for you guys. The story for today is called The CMC Make Eggs by Bluebirdd065. Here we go. Chapter 1. Excellent. Spike, can you make me some breakfast? The dragon in question opened his eyes lazily and threw the covers off of him. He slumped out of his bed and yawned, stretching his arms. He shook off the rest of his morning attitude and walked downstairs, seeing his purple mare friend sorting some books again. She looked up from her work and removed her glasses to greet him. Morning, Spike. Good morning, Twilight, he yawned. Twilight smiled and continued sorting through her sorted books. Spike made his way to the kitchen and pulled out his favorite apron on the way. He tied it into a perfect knot from the back and got breakfast started. He started up the stove, which scared Spike every time it was used, what with living in a giant flammable tree and all, and started taking out all the things he would need. Making breakfast was like second nature for him, and he always loved Twilight's face when he made something especially amazing. Though Spike wasn't feeling so spontaneous today. Today, he felt lazy, which was most of the time. He felt like something simple, besides waffles or pancakes. Eggs, his favorite breakfast food, mostly because it was as close to meat as he'd ever get, nutrition-wise. So, Spike started frying up some eggs, until 3 fillies burst through the door. He and Twilight both welcomed the 3 as they came in, and Scootaloo became the first to speak. Hey Twilight, could we borrow that book again? Twilight looked up from her book. 30 handy flamethrower recipes? She asked. The 3 nodded, and Twilight reluctantly handed the book to Sweetie Belle. The 3 started skimming through it, until Scootaloo's head turned to face Spike's cooking. She took in a large whiff and smiled at Spike. Wow, that smells amazing! What is it? Spike swelled up with pride. It's just eggs. I am a pretty amazing cook though, huh? Twilight rolled her eyes. Scootaloo gave the eggs a long hard look before gasping. Maybe that can be our Cutie Mark. Applebloom and Sweetie Belle looked up from their book and looked at her curiously. What? Applebloom asked. Cooking, Scootaloo said. Cooking? We already tried that, remember? Sweetie Belle said, cringing a bit. Yeah, but we tried all the insane stuff first. Maybe our special talents will show if we go lighter first, Scootaloo pointed. Sweetie Belle tapped her chin with a hoof. That actually makes sense. Wait, but if that's true, then that means all the things we've done before have been just a big waste of time, Applebloom cried. Well then, what are we waiting for? Let's get cracking, Scootaloo said, raising a hoof in the air. With that, Sweetie Belle dropped the book, and the 3 darted out the door, leaving Spike and Twilight alone in the library. Those 3 are gonna burn down Ponyville, Spike said. It probably wasn't a good idea to let them read that book again, was it? Twilight smiled nervously. Then the 2 cringed at the thought of the last incident before returning to their normal duties. Poor Derpy, Spike muttered. Scootaloo hopped onto her scooter and latched the wagon onto it, letting the other 2 hop into it. Once they put their helmets on and got settled, Scootaloo put hers on and started zooming through the streets. Alright, so where are we going to get everything? Scootaloo yelled over the buzzing of her wings. Applebloom held her helmet down with a hoof. We could just get it all from Sweet Apple Acres. Big Mac and Applejack are usually bucking trees at this time, and Granny Smith is napping, so we could just cook them eggs up in the kitchen. Sounds good to me, Sweetie Belle said. Not long after, they arrived at the orchard. The trio hopped off and was greeted by a smiling Applejack who was hard at work. Hey there, you 3, she waved and wiped her forehead. The 3 waved back and got inside the building, being careful not to wake up Granny Smith from her nap as they crossed through the living room. That old mare never woke up from her naps, but the 3 of them didn't want to take any chances as they got into the kitchen. Applebloom grabbed a frying pan from the cabinets and spat it out onto the stove, creating a loud clanging sound that paused everything. The three stood still and uneasily looked at each other, before a loud snore was heard from the next room. They all sighed and got back to prepping the eggs. Sweetie Belle grabbed the eggs and cracked them. One of the eggs hit the side of the magic and slid into the pits of the stove. "Dumb magic," Sweetie cursed. "Well, Sweetie Belle, you're supposed to put the butter in the pan first," Applebloom shouted. "Where are all the spatulas?" Scootaloo yelled. "I don't know," Applebloom shrugged. Sweetie Belle looked at the egg. "What do I do since it doesn't have butter?" "I don't know." "Do you know anything?" Scootaloo snorted. "I know when to keep my mouth shut," Applebloom poked Scootaloo. The two started fighting as Sweetie Belle set the pan down on the counter. She started looking around for some butter or spatulas, but couldn't find either. Then she checked in a small drawer below the stove. "Hey guys, I found the spatulas," she chirped, pulling it out and setting it in the pan. "Wait!" Sweetie Belle turned to the two who had shocked looks on their faces. "Why does it smell like vanilla?" To answer her own question, she looked up. "Ah! I'm on fire!" She started running around in circles, and the other two burst into action. Scootaloo ran over and yanked a bucket from the cabinets and threw it under the faucet of the kitchen sink. Applebloom quickly flipped the sink into the highest setting, and with a quick move, got help from Scootaloo to dump the water on Sweetie Belle's hair. She slipped backwards and slid into a giant cabinet, which poured plates and glasses everywhere. The three stood silent, and Applebloom was the one to peek into the living room. Fortunately, Granny Smith was still asleep. Applebloom sighed, and Scootaloo walked over to pick up Sweetie Belle. Her hair was covering her eyes, and a large bald spot beside her horn was present. She shook the water off of her and frowned at Scootaloo and Applebloom. Scootaloo shrugged. "It was the only thing I could think of." Applebloom walked over to the stove and stomped the ground in anger. "Horse apples!" she cried. The other two walked up and saw what infuriated her. In the middle of the frying pan was a deformed puddle, black as charcoal and still sizzling. "It's not that burnt," Sweetie Belle chimed. "It's as burnt as your mane," Scootaloo pouted, sitting down. "Hey!" she cried. Just then, the front door opened, and seconds later, Spike walked into the kitchen. "Hey, I was just curious about how your cooking cutie mark was coming along." He stopped mid-sentence, and the three turned to him. They were wearing looks that could kill. Still frozen, he saw the glass, water, and cooking utensils covering the floor. He stared at the three and slowly backed away, before turning around and running out the door. The three stayed there in silence, before Scootaloo picked her head up. "Want to try tomorrow?" "Yep, of course!" With that, the three nodded and left the building. The end. Well, that was a cute little story. I know I read a story of a similar nature sometime in the past, but stories like these are just very hard to pass up. I mean, they're just so short and cute and funny that it's enjoyable, to me anyway. This story is easily a 10 out of 10 for me. Well, it's happened again, ladies and gentlemen. You've wasted another perfectly good chunk of your life listening to me. I hope you have enjoyed this reading as much as I have, and I hope to do another one really soon. So, until next time, the one and only Dark Shadow here, signing off.